player in the NFL is retired, Sebastian Janikowski, who began his rookie season as 2000. He has called it quits. He's now the oldest player in the NFL. That's Adam Vinatieri, who's 46 and started kicking in 1996 in the NFL. That was the first year of the Baltimore Ravens. They had just moved from Cleveland. I mean, that's, yeah, you know, that was Super Bowl 31. I mean, that's a while back. The Rams had just moved to St. Louis. Well, they were about a year into it, but yeah, that's the Raiders were now back in Oakland in a second year. You know, I mean, that's how long ago that was. And so I hear that Vinatieri would like to kick until he's 50. We hear Tom Brady, who's also one of the five. It was actually one of the few players older than Janikowski in the NFL. He started in 2000 as well. We heard, I don't put it past him. And so, but Janikowski, who, by the way, I know he was a controversial figure early in his career off the field. However, I'm a former Pittsburgh cab driver, and I once heard very good things about Janikowski from the Pittsburgh cab drivers. One, the story that we have, and I could elaborate, but I won't go so far. One story that I had once is that right after he got out of the nightclub he was at. Okay, yeah, he went to a nightclub. Okay. Ooh. Janikowski was known to like to have a good time, you know, that sort of thing. But what he did also pretty decent because you're spreading it around. Went to the cab, he said, here's $500. Will you just stay here? I mean, I might be a few hours in there, but I just want you here that I know whenever you're there. $500? Absolutely. So he'd actually, you know, treat the little guy pretty well. You can talk about Janikowski likes to party, but he did spread it around and helped out some friends of mine. So I have good things to say about Sebastian Janikowski as his career ends after 19 seasons. A lot of careers are beginning, and I want to talk about, I've often wondered about NFL free agents, if maybe a free agent isn't in a better slot than is a drafted player, because a free agent, at least theoretically, can choose his own spot. I'm a defensive lineman. This team finished last in sacks. Maybe I'll try to tell my agent, hey, would you, reach out a contract there? I can help that team. So you're not slotted to where you absolutely have to play. Anyway, I'm going to give you some notable free agents, and I'll tell you where Tennessee's players wound up and all this. I'm not going to give you every last one because some interesting ideas here. Tyree Jackson. Do you know who Tyree Jackson was? He was the quarterback from Buffalo, the Bulls, University of, that entered the NFL draft. And a lot of people are saying he's a guy that shouldn't have. Well, you know what? He just signed a free agent contract with the Buffalo Bills. And if there was any place where it's going to be sympathetic for him to make it where he might actually have a chance to play, Buffalo Bills. So, I mean, I think that worked out well for him right there. I mentioned Dwayne Hendricks. Signed with Tennessee, transferred to play at Pitt. He signed with the Miami Dolphins. Not a bad pickup there for them. New York Jets signed 17 players. Among them, 2 from Appalachian State, running back Jalen Moore and defensive lineman Myquan Stout. Also, Tennessee's Kyle Phillips. Draft choice, no Vols players were drafted. However, he will be going to the Jets. Also, if you're from Southwest Virginia, John Battle signed with the Jets. Yes, he's a defensive back for LSU, John Battle. Other players of note and where they signed, Jordan Ellis, running back, signed with the Bengals. The Steelers signed a few interesting players. Western Carolina punter Ian Berryman. They kind of loaded up on specialists. They've not been real happy with the production from their specialists over the years. But anyway, that's so no Southern Conference players drafted. But yeah, a punter from Western Carolina is signed by the Steelers. As we look through here, out of the Southern Conference, the SoCon, they are a fallen when it comes to producing football talent. Tennessee Titans signed Quarte Sapp, who couldn't get along with Jeremy Pruitt. Remember that, the Florida game. He signed with the Titans. A lot of people like the Titans draft. You know I like the Broncos draft because they got Drew Lock in the second round. I think that's going to be big for them. Kansas City Chiefs, boy, you'd have thought that Kyle Shermer might have gone with the Giants on a free agent contract. No, he goes to the Chiefs where he'll be signed to die. Let's face it, he's not beating out Patrick Mahomes. But here's the interesting thing. Chiefs signed 3 quarterbacks as free agents. Kyle Shermer out of Vanderbilt, John Lovett out of Princeton, and TJ Linta out of Wagner, of all places. They also got Bruno Reagan, the center from Vandy, to come in. And another player from Princeton. Hey, Andy Reid likes the Princeton players. Smart guys. They got to have an advantage that way, right? John Lovett, who is a tight end fullback. They still haven't decided where he should play. He is going to sign with the Chiefs. Valdosta State, Mike Cavan's old school, actually put a couple of free agents also in the NFL that were both named Harry. Bradford Lemons, cornerback from, as well as Elijah Zeise from the University of Pittsburgh. Elijah Zeise is somebody I've personally known since he was a baby. Francis Paul Zeise, columnist for Pittsburgh Post, that's his son. Paul, I actually went to 2 games, see Elijah Zeise play this year. At Wake Forest, at Charlotte for the ACC title game, just sitting in the stands. I would also point out that Zeise won the Pitt's game against Virginia with a very late sack on the Cavaliers' late possession, forcing a punt. Pitt was able to run out the clock after that, and that victory was the springboard for Pitt winning the Coastal Division this season. So there's something there for you to recognize. Virginia Tech's Ricky Walker, defensive tackle. He'll play for the defense. Well, he'll try out for the Dallas Cowboys. Will Walker from Virginia Tech, Ricky Walker there. Other players of note that have local interest or so, but I did want, obviously, Elijah Zeise coming in. Now he's going to be hopefully playing for the Los Angeles Chargers, even though it's a free agent contract. Clifton Duck, cornerback out of Appalachian State, has signed with the Bears. They also signed a couple of players from Notre Dame. Really? Bears would sign a couple of players from Notre Dame? Who would have thought that, huh? Malik Carney, defenseman from North Carolina. If you're listening over in North Carolina, he signed with the Detroit Lions. Josh Nigman, offensive lineman, signed with the Packers. There you go with that. Kari Blasingame, running back out of Vanderbilt. He signed with Minnesota. So did Micah Prince Abernathy, cornerback from Tennessee. Other players here, the Atlanta Falcons. They were able to pick up Willie Yarberry from Wake Forest. Carolina Panthers picked up Evander Holyfield's son, Elijah Holyfield, running back out of Georgia. However, there were also 2 players who were either drafted or signed by the NFL in the NFL. One was Reggie White Jr., the other is Darrell Johnson Jr. Neither are the sons of the famous football players associated with it. It wasn't the 49ers. Who else is in that? Son with Arizona. All right. So Stephen Peoples, the Rams, Chandler Brewer, offensive lineman from Middle Tennessee State. They picked him up. Looking at other players of local interest as I go down through the list. I know that this can be somewhat fascinating radio. Oh, one last player, Noah Dawkins out of the Citadel. There were only, what was it? There were only 3 players signed as free agents from the Southern Conference, but Noah Dawkins is one of them, and he goes to Seattle. Tries to make that team. Okay. See what happens there. I'm Marky Bilson. I'm going to be joined by SoCon John Hooper in just a little bit. We're going to talk about what has happened to this conference as a football conference. You get what I'm trying to say here. Where are the Paul McGuires? That's way, way back. Okay, well, Tri-City Sports Now. Coming back, SoCon John Hooper after this.
Has the vehicle and the deal.